It's time for The Drive with Q on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. Now, here's Q.
Good evening, everyone. 5 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Monday edition of The Drive with Q. It's a Man Up Monday. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Mi hermano Angel Martinez behind the glass producing the show. We're coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM studios, part Coastal Sports Network. You can catch the show on Broad Street South YouTube channel, as well as my YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q, on this 18th of November. 60 minutes to play with. Get in on the conversation. 727-858-6650. We are powered and brought to you by our wonderful friends over at Zen Auto Concepts, as well as Fresh Roasted Coffee and Play It Again Sports in Deptford. Let me just say this. I woke up this morning. My coffee tasted fresher. It was delicious. Stepped outside. The air that I took in, that I breathed, it hit the lungs in a way that I never thought it would hit the lungs. Food never tasted so delicious. I'm walking around, I'm giddy. I'm like a little schoolboy roaming the country field. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it is over. It is done. The Daniel Jones era has come to an end. He is no longer the quarterback of the New York Football Giants, my New York Football Giants. 6 years of just inconsistency and enigma, frustration, up, down, highs, lows, left, right. It's over. Now, I'll say this. I feel some extent the little bit of sympathy, empathy, if you will, right? A little bit. Daniel Jones never stood a chance to be quarterback of the New York Football Giants. And by the way, another crazy weekend in the NFL, Week 11, which the other team in New York, we realize they're the biggest chokes and frauds in New York sports history, but we'll get into them in a moment. Daniel Jones never had a chance. So the Giant fan like myself that for years defended this kid. I mean, when I say defended, Daniel Jones, you could have argued, had the greatest rookie debut ever in the National Football League. Ever. On the road, Tampa Bay, they're down 18 points. He accounts for 4 touchdowns, 2 via the air, 2 scrambling. He scores on a 4th and 12 late in the game. He throws for 350-something odd yards. No Saquon Barkley. And I said, I feel pretty good. Feel pretty good about this kid. And now we learned life comes at you pretty fast because he was overvalued. It was a bad pick at number 6. He never did anything in college in a handful of games, and he had one brief moment with the New York Giants, which he was able to cash in when they made the run to the playoffs, and he played brilliantly in that game a couple years ago on the road, Minnesota. Fine. It hasn't worked out. Now, they go back to DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, whatever. Look, he's not the answer. We know that. You know that. And you hop, skip, and a jump over Drew Lock, which the GM decided we're going to give you $5 million as a backup. You know, Brian Daboll, the head coach, I think he's on borrowed time. I think you're going to see multiple of head coaches be dismissed after this season. I think Brian Daboll is going to be one of them. His answers with the media, they're not even curt. They're not even transparent. He's brilliant at not telling you the answer, if that makes sense. Like, I get it. You watch this kid develop in DeVito and it's a handful of snaps. He doesn't give the Giants the best chance of winning. And that's fine with me because at the end of the day, I mentioned this. I stood by it. I screamed at the mountaintop. I probably, to annoy most of you, when the Giants were 2-8, they were going to bench Daniel Jones. And it's a business decision. You don't want to have to pay him out if he gets hurt. But again, it shows you the quarterbacking position in the NFL, how it's so important, man. If you don't have a quarterback, you are going nowhere. It is a fact. You cannot debate it. You can't dispute it. You might win some games with a bridge quarterback here and there, but you have to build your team in and then out. And the Giants have failed to do that. They failed to do it under the regime late, under Gettleman, and now with Joe Shane, who I also believe is on borrowed time. And listen, it was 6 years of just bad football. It was 6 years. The best thing I can pretty much tell you, again, the best thing I can pretty much tell you when it comes to a move like this is, A, You don't want to win any games. You want to get the number all overall draft pick. That's what the Giant fan hopes for. That's what the Giant fan wants. Okay? I don't even think there's a quarterback coming out that you would deem worthy of taking them with the number one overall pick. And I heard the talk, Sanders and Hunter playing both ways and Ward and all that. You can win in the NFL with a good quarterback. Not a great one, but you need pieces around him. So they are more than just a quarterback away. You need the quarterback, no doubt. But the irony of all this is that in an NFL where we're seeing these kids get drafted and we're throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at them, some of them do not even deserve it because we overvalue their stock. You watched that game. You watched both games last night. Did you not watch Herbert, Burrow slinging it? Did you not watch Mahomes, Allen slinging it? You watching Jared Goff slinging it? I mean, Goff last week throws 4 picks, 5 picks. He comes back, MVP performance yesterday. Right now, you look at the quarterback playing the NFL, Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, maybe take a step back a little bit. It's week to week in the NFL. So the Giants did what they had to do. They're not going to win the rest of these games. They might maybe be competitive. Who knows? Maybe beat Dallas with Hooper Rush on Thanksgiving. By the way, enjoy that. Enjoy having a little turkey, letting it sit with the tryptophan, whatever the hell that is. Wash it down with a couple beverages of your choice, maybe a little dessert, little hot toddy, little pumpkin pie. Then all of a sudden, right before you're falling asleep and you're kind of laying back in your chair, and maybe the kids are going wild, or maybe your girlfriend's getting on your nerve, or your wife wants you to do the dishes, or you're getting ready for meal number 2. You got to sit back because, in different households, you'll eat 3 or 4 times a day, whatever. On the holidays, you got to sit at 4:30. And you got to let that sit in your stomach and watch the Giants and the Cowboys, and Brady's doing the game. So we'll get into your Giants thoughts. I know Giants fans are getting at me on Facebook as well as X. And you guys can connect 727-858-6650. So that's the first half of what's going on in New York. Then the second half, and by the way, not a bad weekend with the picks. Got to give a little credit where credit is due once in a while. What happened yesterday? In a game the Jets had no business losing, the Jets once again showed you how much of a friggin' fraud they are. By losing to the Colts, can we just now admit, can we please admit that Aaron Rodgers is a shot quarterback? Please, I don't ask for much. I don't, sunshiny days, good beach weather, a little fishing, put a little food in Kiki's body, let her run around, have some fun, maybe win a couple football games here and there, maybe a bet or two, if the desire's there, watch a couple good films, catch a good day. I don't ask for much. All I'm asking on this Man Up Monday, for you guys to just admit, the guys that were hammering me, just admit Aaron Rodgers is done. He's shot. That team stinks. They're 3-8. They spit the bit. That GM's going to be out the door. Douglas is going to be out the door. But here's what really bothers me on this Man Up Monday with the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. These reports are coming out that Aaron Rodgers said, you know what? Yeah, I'll come back, but I need to have consistency. I don't want to have to worry about change. Who the hell is this clown to make these types of demands? You played horrible football this year. Enough with the defense. The defense is so overrated. There are 7 players you can say, Aaron Rodgers, Jet fans don't want you back. Sauce Gardner, you're overrated. Trade Breece Hall. Trade Garrett Wilson. Blow it all up. So you got the 2 clown friggin' franchises right now going on in New York. And then if you sat back yesterday and enjoyed some pretty good football and wild football, you saw an MVP performance yesterday. And we called it on Friday's show. I said on Friday's show, I thought, and I even gave you the spread. I told you the Bills were going to win that game over Kansas City by at least 13 points. Now, they could have taken the points, and it could have been a 33-21 game at the end of the day. They didn't. They won by 9. But what you saw yesterday was the difference in being a good team to a great team to a special team. Kansas City's flawed. The Baltimore Ravens are flawed. Kansas City They were a flawed, undefeated team, and Buffalo's had their number in the regular season, and they were ripe for the picking. We all saw it. But the performance again by Josh Allen clearly shows you how important the quarterbacking position is. Drafting the right guy at the right time for the right fit and the right system. And he doesn't have to put up monster numbers, but when Josh Allen needs to make a play, he friggin' makes a play. I mean, the scramble for the touchdown, it was unbelievable. And, you still give the ball back to Patty Mahomes and you got some opportunities there. And obviously it didn't pan out. But if you look at Josh Allen this year, Josh Allen's going to throw for well over probably 3,400 yards. It might not be a 4,000 type of season with 6 games left. He'd have to average about 300 a game. That gets you to 43. But he already has 23 total touchdowns, just 5 picks. He's doing it with his legs. And Buffalo knocks off the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. Now, again, you want to sit there and tell me in the AFC, by default, Buffalo is the best team. I'm not going to argue that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they beat Baltimore, I think that speaks more to Baltimore having some flaws. And even though Russell Wilson had that bad pick in the end zone last night, they still figured out a way to win the game. I thought Justin Fields was going to have a breakout year. I thought Russell Wilson was cooked. Fields looked good. I was totally wrong. I'm manning up on Russell Wilson. He's played really good football. This team can score. They can play defense. They won 5 straight. So now you got them. You got tonight the Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. And really, it is 4 teams. And if you want to throw in the Chargers, I'll do that. Because right now, I would not want to face the Chargers. I'd be more content facing the Baltimore Ravens than the Chargers. The Chargers defense is on another level. Now, they yucked up a 20-something point lead last night. Thank you very much, Cincinnati. All I needed you to do was win the game by a friggin', or not lose the game by a point, win it by a point, pretty much pick them. You couldn't get that done for me. But the Chargers right now are playing really good football. Why? Quarterback play, head coaching, hand in hand. Kansas City, quarterback, head coach. Buffalo, quarterback, head coach. You see where I'm going with this? And we're not getting that with these teams in New York. We're not getting that with Chicago. We're not getting that with Jacksonville. We're not getting that with Indianapolis. I mean, these teams are struggling really bad. And you already start to see teams making business decisions yesterday. We told you right around this time. I thought Buffalo, they're a physical team. They can run the football. Mahomes is a magician. Mahomes sometimes does a little too much. We saw that bad pick, that bad play. It was pretty much after Romo said, mistake-free football. That's what you want from your quarterback. But we knew Kansas City, or at least I knew Kansas City was not going to go undefeated this year. It's just too hard. It's just too hard. When the New England Patriots in 2007, when they had that undefeated regular season, they were absolutely just woodshedding teams. But then you got to week 11, 12, 13, they started to leak a little bit of oil. And I see that with Kansas City. Now they'll get Pacheco back. They'll get some players back. But the AFC West right now, when you got the Chargers breathing down your necks, and Kansas City's in pretty good position at 9-1. They've got Carolina, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Browns, the Texans, the Steelers, the Broncos. They're probably gonna lose another game or two. They'll probably lose another game or two. Now, can Buffalo run the table? Because ultimately, you don't want to have to go to Orchard Park. You don't want to have to go to Buffalo in January. You just don't. The Bills have a huge game coming up against the 49ers. They've got the Rams, they got the Lions, the Pats, the Jets, the Patriots. That's tough. They might win 12-13, and they might get that 2 seed. And Baltimore and the Chargers for that 3-4 seed. Throw the Steelers in there as well. So that's kind of where we're looking, right? That's kind of where we're looking with the AFC. And in the NFC, man, I'll tell you, Chicago missed an opportunity to just prove to be a thorn in the Packers side. Second consecutive week in the NFL, a game has ended on a blocked field goal attempt. Think about that. Special teams, right? Special teams, special players. So Green Bay gets the win. The 49ers, I have no idea what the hell is going on with the 49ers. People can tell me about the injuries all they want. You got no business losing that game yesterday. You just don't. You have no business letting Geno Smith go the length of field. You have no business losing that game. They got McCaffrey back. They rushed for $131. They're averaging 5 on the ground. And then again, Geno Smith just slinging it, making plays late. That's a bad loss for the 49ers. It just might not be the 49ers season. They've got the Packers, the Bills still left, Detroit. They might be on the outside looking in. And speaking of Detroit, I think right now, NFC-wise, and I would make a case in the NFL that the Detroit Lions are the most fun team, the most complete team, the most dynamic team, and the most potent offense out there. You knew that they were going to, that first half money line was only 7 against Jacksonville. I hope you guys grabbed it and you cashed in. Jacksonville was literally going to just totally just bail out. And that's what they did. I didn't think the Lions were going to put up 50-something odd points, but they are a juggernaut. I don't know if a team like the Packers or the Eagles, the Vikings, I don't know if you can go into that stadium on that track and beat them. I just don't know, man. You're going to have to score at least 30, 35 points. And that's a tough ask. They put up 52. They've scored the Lions this year, aside from their one loss, which was an aberration against Tampa Bay, 26-20, 42-47, 31-52, 24-26, 52. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. Now you look at Jared Goff, and yeah, you can have an argument where you stick Jared Goff in the MVP race. So the quarterback play in the NFL, it's been vital. It's been critical. We've seen it with the best teams in the league. The bottom tier teams are going to have a lot of questions that need to be answered in the offseason. But again, not really the big news because we kind of knew Daniel Jones was going to get benched. We know Aaron Rodgers is shot. We have no idea what's going on in Indianapolis, even though they went back to Anthony Richardson. Maybe that prolongs him. He gives them a little equity. You got the issues in Carolina. You got the issues in Chicago. Jacksonville. I mentioned some of these coaches that are going to be gone. Eberflus could have really, really helped his cause with a win against a bitter division rival that has owned the Bears in Green Bay. Didn't happen. Doug Peterson, you got guys tanking it right now for Doug. Daboll in trouble. Antonio Pierce with the Raiders. Listen, they play for the guy, that's a load of crap. That's a load of crap. They didn't even show up yesterday. They didn't even show up. They hung around for maybe like a quarter. And then Miami, imagine if Miami had Tua healthy pretty much the whole season. They'd be at least a 7-win team right now and right there in the AFC East. Quarterbacking play, it's imperative. You need a quarterback in this league, man. And the teams that don't have it, they are the teams that are struggling. So we'll run through the gamut. We'll preview tonight's game, the Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. I also want to get your thoughts. Did you watch the debacle that was Jake Paul against Mike Tyson? If you listened to the drive on Friday, we pretty much told you. Again, it was going to be an absolute disgrace. GPG, what's going on, my friend? We knew it was going to be a debacle. We knew it was going to be a disgrace. We'll get into that, 727-858-6650. But a lot of NFL talk on the table, 20 past the 5 o'clock hour, as we are powered by our good friends over at Zen Auto Concepts. We'll open up the comments on the other side. I got some Giant fans, Jet fans, 49ers fans, Eagles fans, Bears fans weighing in on Facebook as well on X. Your time to shine on the other side, 727-858-6650. We'll take up to 6 o'clock straight up.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game app and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
All right, 23 past 5 o'clock the hour. We'll take it to 672-7858-6650. It is indeed a Man Up Monday edition of The Drive with Q. Rich Quinones here. Angel Martinez behind the glass. We are powered by our good friends over at Zen Auto Concepts, #1 detailing shop in all of Florida. Played against sports. You see the graphic right there to my left, to my right. There it is, 1450 Clements Ridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. By the way, second Mount Laurel shop is coming up as well. And then, of course, our picks from our good friends over at Fresh Roads of Coffee. Check out the link on the website, SR1029 The Game. You'll get your promo code BYP20, 20% off. But you have to click on the link. And it tells you right there, download the app, call or text, 727-858-6650. Angel made a point of emphasis today. He said, quote, if any of your friggin' clown callers and commenters and viewing audience and fans cannot find the website, the link, the download, they are banned. I'm paraphrasing. It's exactly what he said. He went out, he took shots, he said clowns. I mean, oh, there he is, the incredible
there was no shots at clowns. I never said clowns. Let's get that one straight, because I don't want your guys to be like, oh, we're a bunch of clowns, huh? So no, I did not say clowns. I made it easier because some of your folks said they couldn't find it. So now they can just click on the buttons, Pete Shepard Show, Martinez and Company, Drive with Q, and it'll take them over to our destination. All they got to do is just scroll a little more on the app and the website, and ta-da, there you are. They can also call the show from there, text the show from there, listen to the radio portion of it. So yeah, super easy. But no, I would not call your listening audience clowns, except for your New York Giants.
Well, I mean, listen, they're so bad. By the way, Joe D in Somers Point chiming in. Q, you got to be ecstatic. Daniel Jones is done. It's all over with. I am. 727-858-6650. Let's see what the clowns, I mean, the faithful audience and the listeners have to say. What do we got here? Don't say it. Don't say it. I'm wondering what the X-Man is referring to.
The beginning of the broadcast.
49ers. Dang it, I want my car detailed, but your supporter is all the way. It's not a supporter, it's a sponsor. Yeah, a lot of parking meters down there in Florida. It's funny. I'm waiting for, there it is. Is there a generational talent coming out of the draft worth tanking for? No. By the way, that's a great comment by Trevor, which they're far and few from him, by the way. But that is a great comment, thought, opinion. There's not. I don't hear any Commanders talk anymore. What did they play? Did we not talk about them on Friday when they lost? They didn't play on Sunday. My goodness. I believe someone on the broadcast picked them to win a division. What is this, a back and forth crap? Yeah, I picked the Commanders to win a division. I also said the Jets were going to miss the playoffs. This is ridiculous. They're just coming in. Unbelievable. No shot. Angel said that.
That's right. Thank you, ex-madman. See? He knew it.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I don't know. Oh,
See?
stop. I'll just, you know what? Go ahead. Take a.
That was it. Listen, I enjoyed your coffee there, as you stated in the very beginning. Fresh roasted coffee. You said it was great weekend. You know, but wait, if the folks want to know, did you go fishing this weekend?
Yeah, we got in a little. It was 64 today. I couldn't today, but no, it wasn't that bad yesterday. Like an hour or so. I did. I'll get back to the football in a second, but had a mini Ami broadcast, and then I endured the nonsense that was the fight the other night. And I told you I had to watch it because in this regard, yeah, it is part of the job per se, but everyone knows I'm a boxing guy, and it was a pretty good undercard, even though you text me and you're like, what the hell's going on with this opening bout? And I was like, yeah, looks like the guy just got out of the clink. But my point was that fighter that was from India had a great following, right? So they put him on the card. The Barrios fight was really good. And then the Taylor and Serrano fight was great. Me and my buddies, we were all texting each other. I mean, it doesn't shock me how the decision was. And my point was, sometimes you get a cut like that, you have to fight through it and overcome the adversity. Judges are skewed. So when they see the cut, whether it's an accidental headbutt or not, or it was caused by a jab or a punch or a right or left, doesn't matter. They're almost in this state where, well, that opponent's been bloodied and battered. So I guess this other opponent's doing their job, if that makes sense, to kind of dumb it down for the listening audience with respect. I don't think that was the case. I thought this is the consistency and the substance of Taylor. I thought it was a close fight. I could have saw it either way. I knew the Barrios fight was going to be a draw, but then it leads into the Tyson and Paul debacle, which if you tuned in on Wednesday, if you tuned in on BYP on Thursday, if you tuned in on BYP Back Your Play on Saturday with the Prof and myself, and then Friday on the drive, I told you, those that actually thought Tyson had a shot at winning are just, you're delusional, man. And there were some boxing pundits and talking heads out there that actually believed this man had a shot at winning the fight. First of all, you saw what was made, and then, oh, by the way, on paper, he also gets another $4 million for going the distance. He had a moment, a flicker in that fight where if he tried to apply a little bit of pressure, it might have been a moment of interest. Other than that, Jake Paul carried him. And I always have this conversation with people. You can have all the friggin' muscles in the world. But if you have no stamina, no conditioning, that's like some of my buddies who sit there and brag to me that they can pump up 225. That means nothing to me. That means nothing. And by the way, for those that can bench 225, the bar needs to friggin' touch the chest. You know who I'm talking to. You know it, and I know it. I don't want to hear any juice excuses. You bring it down, you pause, 1, 2, 3, and then you push it out. 225 is nothing. Give me the calisthenics. Give me the body weight. Women's fight was awesome. Talking about Laura was talking about Tyson's punch. How about that? Yeah, that great father-son moment. Love you. And then Tyson turns around. He's got the chaps.
Yep.
He's
But
got,
you know what?
oh man.
That woman's
That's
fight,
just,
though, I want to get back there for a second because you do
Yeah.
love, obviously, talk boxing. But what was it, Barrios, and what was the other lady's name?
Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor.
Okay, so Serrano, first of all, I think should have won that fight.
Okay.
That's number one. And then what's with the friggin' the headbutt where it opened up her eye? She did it twice, and then the poor girl had to deal with that piece of skin hanging over her eye. And then
Accidental
poor-
head flash. It happens in wrestling, man. That's the worst kind of cut. Like, I can live with a cut right here.
Right.
I can't live with a cut here or a cut here because the blood's coming down and it's obstructing my view. So the corner did a good job, but I made a point, and I've said this on broadcast as well. Let's just say it's a 10, 12 round fight and you get that cut pretty early in the fight. The problem now that you have as a fighter is if the cut's over my left eye, obviously I got to keep my left guard, right? So now you
Right.
touch me downstairs, my mind goes, I need to drop my guard. Now you can come right up top with the right hand or left hand for that matter, pardon me. So you're thinking you have to overcome that type of adversity. You're always thinking about the cut. Sometimes fighters fidget a little bit. It bothers them. That's number two. And the third thing is, and they didn't mention this during the broadcast, and I was a little surprised. The fact that when you sustain a cut early in a fight, the more times the ringside physician has to get up, Angel, and go to the corner and check on you, you're giving them a reason to stop the fight. So when I suffer that cut, whether it's accidental headbutt or a clean shot in the third or fourth round, and the ringside doctor is getting up in the fifth and the sixth and the seventh, and he's checking, you okay? Checking, show me something, checking. They're more prone to stop the fight. I thought that was going to happen. Obviously, Serrano is just a world champ, an all-time great. They were going to let her go out on her shield. And I know afterwards, I didn't like the fact that, her manager, Maldonado, comes out. He steals the spotlight from her. It was ridiculous. Was it a controversial decision? Yeah, but are there controversial decisions in boxing? All the time they are. I don't use the term robbery, but I just think late in that fight, Taylor had her opportunities. It was a good card. It was a good card, but what people fail to remember too is that a lot of times in these fights, if you get a point deducted here and there, that plays into obviously the judging. And we kind of saw that in the Barrios fight, and the broadcast didn't really make mention of that. Then I had everyone saying, what the hell is Rosie Perez doing during the broadcast? Rosie Perez is a big time boxing fan. She's very tight with Mike Tyson. She's a fanatical fan. She loves the sport. That was an event. That's all that was last night, or the other night. It was an event.
Mm-hmm.
And people took it way too serious. Now, the funny thing is, I posted this on Facebook, and it's on X. No, loyal listeners are not clowns. But the problem is, can some of the loyal listeners do 225? The buffering, I didn't have any issues, but I posted this on Facebook. And did you see the NFL, the meme on X where, the NFL, Netflix, and all the great moments, they freeze in time?
Yep.
That was a disgrace. How do you have a streaming service, right? How do you have a streaming service like Netflix that you pride yourself on being what? A viable option to stream content, video, shows, programming, and you want to get in bed with sports, and all of a sudden you get this.
Yep.
It reminded me of the days where you had to dial up, like when I had freaking CompuServe, and it's like, like boom, 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 boom.
Uh-huh.
I mean, did anyone else out there? I only had maybe 30 seconds of fuzziness, the squigglies, maybe like 30 seconds. Did anyone else have any issues? Did you have issues?
Oh, I know. I had it. And I mean, you figured even with the with the stream that I have here at the house, I mean, it's which, it didn't even depend on what you had there at your own home, but I had it. And the funny part was it was just when they were getting ready to go to the ring, and you had your broadcaster, Rosie, and then
Mauro Ranallo.
No. Who's my boxer?
Roy Jones Jr.
There you go. So when the three of them were there, then all of a sudden it went to, he was talking, the broadcaster was actually talking, and then all of a sudden it just kind of reversed by itself. I'm like, what the hell is this? We're doing a cha-cha slide here. And then it fast forwarded, and then it did 99%. That did it for a little bit. I mean, it was very, very off and on-ish the entire time.
Was it worse than the fight itself?
No, but you know what? By the time we got to the fight, it wasn't bad. Only because I ended up watching the next day because I got tired of the buffering. So I ended up watching the next day. So I didn't watch the news or anything else because I wanted to see exactly what ended up happening. I thought the intro, once again, because it was an event, was ridiculous. How do you pick a song, right, that you're going to come out to, you screw up the words to it, you screw up the drumming part of it, and yet, you have to make sure you put out there that Gas Monkey was the one that provided the truck with the green, bluish flames, whatever it was. I just thought that part of it
Wait,
itself.
hold on. You're getting on Jake Paul because he missed a drum part?
It was him
Phil
and his brother.
Collins?
Him and his brother both.
Well, let's hold on. Let's man up on this.
All right.
How many times in our life, it doesn't matter if we're driving or we're stopped at a light, when that song comes on and the drum part comes on, we all go like this.
Right. But we all know when it comes on, though, when that part's coming up. For them, it was delayed. It was like it already happened. His brother looked at Jake like, oh, we're supposed to do this. I'm like, come, if you missed it, you missed it. But nonetheless, it was just it was just a showboating kind. I mean, and then you had the Netflix folks that went out there, Karate Kid, freaking Cobra Kai.
Oh, fantastic. Gotta love that. By the way, I mean, listen, you gotta get the celebrities in attendance.
Well, yeah.
I just started watching the new season, by the way. I don't want anyone to ruin it for me. I just started watching.
Oh, see, wrong thing. You just said
I mean, what are we getting here with the comments, by the way? See, this is what happens when lots of Michael buffering. That's not bad. That's not bad. It was buffering. Now we like to say buffering. It was buffering the bulk of the main event. But figures no buffering when Tyson cheeks. That was hilarious. He's like, "What's your prediction? A knockout?"
Yeah,
I can imagine there was no furry moments, but come on now. I mean, we're doing this. We're going back to Friday's show. I had one lapse. I had one misjudgment of a comment, and all of a sudden, you guys want to take it and just pretend like we're just, I almost slipped again by saying landing the plane. I almost slipped again. Well, I said it, but. I mean, Kevin, North Jersey on Facebook chimes in. Q, you got to be ecstatic. You've been pissing on Daniel Jones for years. You finally got what you wanted. Are you happy? Let's go, Tommy Cutlets. It's not about being happy. Okay. When you have a favorite player or quarterback, it was very hard for me when the Giants released Phil Simms. And they went through a boatload of quarterbacks. It bothered me. Phil was my guy. I met Phil Simms when I was a kid. He was my guy. Eli then became my guy. And I was the biggest, and I still am, and it probably annoys people to no end, the biggest Eli fan and the biggest Eli defender and supporter and, whatever. When they benched him, I was pissed. I was really annoyed because I think they did him dirty. And they draft Daniel Jones thinking he's going to be the heir apparent. And it didn't work out. So when people are sitting there saying, well, you let X, Y, and Z go, listen, Saquon's not having the year he's having behind that offensive line with the Giants. Good for Saquon. McKinney, great for him in Green Bay. That's great. Love in Seattle, great. It's the NFL. Guys move on. But when you bank everything on a quarterback and the GM at the time sits there and says, we'll see how dumb or how smart I was in 6 years and 5 years. Well, he's no longer the GM anymore. The kid is a nice kid and he's got some skill and he has some talent. But this to me, Daniel Jones to me is this. Did you ever see The Godfather or The Godfather Part 2, which is the greatest sequel ever made? Greatest sequel ever made because they split. They go from a young Vito Corleone, played by one Robert De Niro, and the origins of it. All right. There's a scene in the present day where obviously Al Pacino now is taking over for the old man. Marlon Brando passed away. He's basically talking to one of his, I guess you can say, part of the family, so to speak, right? And they're having this conversation and they're talking about, what's good for business, right? Because that's when you watch these mafia movies, we always talk about what's good for business. What's good for business? It's nothing personal. What's good for business? This, that, the other. It never gets old, right? So there's a scene in the movie where they tried to assassinate Al Pacino's character. Obviously the younger, Michael Corleone. They tried to assassinate him in the house in Tahoe. So when he finds that out, he knows exactly who is playing him. That's the brilliance, okay? That's the brilliance of Pacino. And if you didn't see The Godfather, just leave me alone. I don't want to deal with you right now, or The Godfather too. Just follow along for a freaking moment. Can I have your guys' undivided attention for a second? So there is a scene where he's in he visits one of his guys in his house, which used to be his house growing up as a kid, if that makes sense, because it was passed down, and it happens to be Michael Gazzo's character, Frank Pantangeli, which is a great character. They want to exact revenge. So he believes that Frank basically set it up. It wasn't him. He knows that. It was the old man, Hyman Roth, in Miami. So the old school mobster, Frank Pantangeli, and this is Daniel Jones. This is Frank Pantangeli says this about Hyman Roth. He says, your father knew Hyman Roth. Your father worked with Hyman Roth. Your father respected Hyman Roth, but your father never trusted Hyman Roth. That's how I feel about Daniel Jones. I know Daniel Jones. I like Daniel Jones. I respect Daniel Jones. But when Sunday rolls around, I never trusted Daniel Jones. And I can't. He gave me one moment, one season, one moment, one playoff game. So to Kevin's point and Joe's point, you have to move on. You have to let go. You have to start fresh. And by the way, the Giants are not the only team thinking about this as we speak. They're not the only team. Mike and Philly chimes in. Q, you could have cut to the chase on that one. Yeah, I probably could have. That Commanders are weak like Fredo. No, they're not. Stop. That's just nonsense. That's just my point. Like, not every team is blessed with having a great quarterback. The Chargers, look at the turnaround the Chargers have done with Harbaugh on that defense and Justin Herbert. Look at Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. Even Matthew Stafford slinging a little bit here and there. It's frustrating because if you miss on a quarterback, you're screwed. You're setting your franchise back. So when you overvalue a certain position, or you draft a running back in the top 5, or you draft a wide receiver or a tight end early, and it blows up in your face. And here's the irony, the full circle moment, by the way. Jones is benched. He had his coming out party, his first game against who? Tampa on the road. Who did the Giants play this weekend? Tampa. I mean, it's almost like a full circle moment. But he's not the only quarterback that's going to be out of a job. And that head coach is not going to be the only head coach out of a job. Listen, did you really focus on what we saw over the weekend? The Packers showed you they're a really good team because, again, just like bad teams can't find a way to win, they found a way to win. The Eagles the other night didn't play their best game, but then they pulled away. That's a real good team. The Packers played an ugly game. They blocked a field goal to attempt late. They pulled away. The Lions are surging. The Vikings all of a sudden get a win against a bad team. I already mentioned that Ravens in that Steelers game. I mean, think about this. If you guys think Washington is a fraud, where would you put Pittsburgh right now? Seriously, where would you put Pittsburgh right now? Is Pittsburgh legit? Pittsburgh just beat Baltimore.
You got to
okay. So are we trusting Russell Wilson? We trusting what Tomlin's doing? Or are we saying that Baltimore is maybe a flawed team?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Tomlin, I mean, listen, he turned things around from last season. He's yet to be an under 500 coach.
Never. They're 8-2. They're 4-1 at home. They played good defense in spite of Russell Wilson making some mistakes. They actually held Derrick Henry in check, who, by the way, if you're going to do a player prop, do Derrick Henry anytime touchdown. Joey B accused my Dr. Phil today, saving me $300 an hour on a shrink with my Giants. Hey, I mean, I have to. Can you believe this guy? This guy came in last week, asked me to christen his kid. Yeah, for $7,000, I'll do it. Now, there's going to be a couple people that get that reference. Every Giants fan right now, if they draft Shedeur Sanders, I might become a Buccaneers fan with Angel. I'm going to set it. I'm going to set a scenario for you guys. 2 scenarios. I think Belichick's going to come back. And I think Belichick's bored. He wants to beat Shula's record. He needs 26, 27 more wins. Jacksonville might be a landing spot. You got a quarterback to work with, kind of a weak division, AFC South, Florida, taxes, all that stuff. Now, I bring it up to say this. Look at the teams right now that, and I'll pull it up for you guys, that need quarterbacks. So this is updated. This is Tankathon. Right now, Jacksonville would have the top overall pick. They just paid Trevor Lawrence. Tennessee at number 2. They need a quarterback. Cleveland at number 3. God knows what the hell they're going to do. I mean, that's guaranteed money for Deshaun Watson. The Raiders, then the Giants. Patriots seem like they already have a quarterback. We don't know what's happening with the Jets. Carolina, Dallas, and then the Saints ran out the top 10. The reason I bring that up is because, to Joey's point, I think what'll happen is, and if you read the tea leaves and you even watched the other night, Michael Irvin kind of going back with Jerry Jones, it's almost set up. Now, I don't believe Deion Sanders wants to be an NFL head coach. I don't. But I also believe Deion Sanders is driven by what? His ego and the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost seems as though it's set up where it is a package deal. Sanders and Deion, they already came out and said, look, they'll pull an Eli if he's drafted. And again, I went down the list of teams. Now, the other team that could be a dark horse in this for Shedeur Sanders are the Raiders. Now, hold on. Now, follow me on this. Now, wouldn't that be something if, would Deion go coach the Raiders and not the Cowboys? Would he want to take an NFL job if it paid? That owner has a substantial amount of money too. Can you see a scenario where John Gruden's name is being tossed around with one of these teams? How many teams, and I'll go through the list one more time: Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland, Vegas, and the Giants. They're your top 5. So if we pull up right now, let's just say an early, this is not me, this is just what I'm pulling up, an early mock draft. This is CBS Sports. So this was a couple hours ago. I don't think it's Prisco, but here's their mock draft. Jacksonville is taking Travis Hunter with the number 1 pick. Who do you think the Giants are taking at number 2?
Beck.
No. Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, good Lord.
Cam Ward to Cleveland, number 3. McMillan, a wide receiver, number 4 to the Raiders. A tackle, Banks, number 5 to Tennessee. Campbell, number 6. I mean, here's the other thing. If you're going to draft Hunter, is he going to play both sides, right? 727-858-6650. Can you please pull up Trevor's last comment? Pittsburgh is like, no, the other one. Pittsburgh is like Mo Greenberg. That's not bad. Shedeur is a Nepo baby, too soft to succeed. How do you know he's too soft to succeed in the NFL? Come on. Imagine Gruden with the Cowboys or Giants. Must see TV if he landed in Dallas. It would be a reality show. I have no idea what direction Dallas is going to go.
Plus,
I don't.
Gruden just signed a deal with Barstool Sports.
I know he signed a deal with Barstool. I know he did. I know. Yep. We talked a little bit about that last week, but again, multi-year. I mean, can he get out of it? Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I can't really sit there and tell you if we're handicapping head coaching jobs or head coaches to be fired. I gave you 4 of them already. I mean, I believe right now two coaches that are done. You can just mark it down right now. Doug Peterson is a dead man walking, and I think Eberflus is done in Chicago.
He's got to be.
He has to be. He has to be. Both done. So there's two. Tennessee, maybe three. Is your guy in Carolina going to be one and done? I don't think so. I believe Daboll's in trouble. I believe Brian Daboll's in trouble when this implodes. And I'll give you another name, and I know I've been very critical of him, and he's your guy, or I should say some of our listening fan base. I know the Eagles right now are playing good football. The expectation, though, is they need to get to the NFC Championship, or they have to make a deep run. And they can't drop 4 out of 5 and get bounced in a wild card game or divisional round. And if that happens, let's just say he's out of a job. Where can he land? With the Raiders? With the Colts? Now, this is all speculation. I mean, we're talking it's November 18th, and we're speculating where potentially some of these guys can land. But rest assured, you fire some of these coaches, if these teams are going to make moves, you cannot wait until February. You can't. That's why we have Black Monday. You got to get a jump on these on filling these positions, because now if you're bringing in another head coach, or worst case scenario, if you're the Giants and the Jets and you're getting rid of the GM and the head coach, now you got to go do a search. You got to hire the GM first, who's going to want to hire his guy, who's going to want to hire his coaching staff. That's what I'm saying. When you have these franchises that are just in flux, and that's exactly, there you go, Shanahan's another one.
Yep.
Raiders, yes. Jets, Giants, Jags. Giants, Cowboys, plus 2 more teams will be looking to hire a new head coach. So, yeah, you got 4 or 5 teams right there. So, if you bring in different the Bears, definitely. If you bring in different GMs, I'm going to want to hire my guy. And then that coach is going to want to hire who? His coaching staff. And that's when he starts plucking and poaching. I'll tell you right now, on the record, who I would want is, if the Giants fire Daboll, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator from Detroit. And I can live with trading a number 1 or number 2 overall draft pick, acquiring assets, and then having a bridge quarterback for a year. And then, as my buddy pointed out, all the stars line up for Arch Manning in another year. Fine. Because what have I seen over the last 10 years? Nothing but garbage football. I mean, I will be so pissed if the friggin' Tommy Cutlets, if the slinging Sicilian, if the passing Paisano, if he comes in and he wins a couple games and screws. Here's a scenario I'm going to paint for you right now. Ready? And this is they flexed the Giants and Eagles to close out the regular season. The Giants have already locked up the number 1 overall draft pick. They've locked it up. Jacksonville will figure out a way to get one more win. Chicago, maybe one more win. The Raiders, one more win. The Giants, Kaputski. Nyet. They're done, right? So it's the Giants and Eagles. Let's flex that. Follow me. Let's flex that to Sunday night. Why? Because the Eagles are playing for the division. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So the Giants already have the top overall draft pick locked up. So now we're going to stick that game. We're going to flex that friggin' game on Sunday Night Football at the link. Here you go. Have fun, you bunch of jerk-offs. Enjoy it. The Giants go all out, and they win that game and prevent the Eagles from winning the division, which basically means they're not going to make the playoffs, because I told you, I believe only one team is coming out of the NFC East. That, my friend, would be an absolute, I will be insufferable. That would be a glorious scenario. But if that happens, they're still going to fire the head coach, and maybe the Eagles turn around and they get rid of Sirianni. So we will potentially have 3 new head coaches in the NFC East next year. We're definitely going to have 2. McCarthy's dead man walking. Brian Daboll, I think, is done. I don't like the way he handles. I didn't like the way he handles the situations, the pressers. I don't like the way he handled Daniel Jones. I don't. I think the kid was set up to fail. I think there were too many coordinators. He wasn't a 6 overall draft pick. He didn't have that talent. It was a reach. But He'll be a quarterback somewhere. Who's to say he doesn't go to Indianapolis or Carolina? Like, Belichick loves to work with young quarterbacks. I'm not saying it's going to be Daniel Jones, but stick him in Jacksonville with Lawrence. They have weapons. They have some decent players. So it's just, the NFL it's so interesting because the NFL is really the only sport where we can confidently say it's 24/7, 365. There's always news. Something's going on, right? I don't believe, like, for instance, tonight, I like the Texans. I think the Texans cover the number. I think it's a bad spot for Dallas. I think Dallas's offense has just been, as we know, horrible. They haven't won yet at home. I mean, hell, Jake Paul has more wins in friggin' Dallas than the Dallas Cowboys do. I think the Dallas Cowboys have just quit. They flat out quit. Like, this is a game, if you're looking at the first half money line, maybe you lean towards the Texans. I can see this a 27-13 kind of win for the Texans tonight. But point being, this is a team in Dallas that has Washington coming up, the Giants, Cincy, the Panthers, the Bucks, the Eagles, the Commanders. They're going to win a couple games, but they're not going to win enough where Mike McCarthy can justify saving his job. And the whole, Dak went down, it doesn't matter because he's had too many failed playoff appearances. He'll win 12, 13 regular season games. So once McCarthy's fired, you will hear the Deion Sanders chatter. But I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Is Dallas an appealing job? It's not, because you have a meddlesome owner. Now, and this is just bar talk right now. Now you're trying to poach Deion. You're trying to sell Deion on the Dallas Cowboys. You play with the franchise. Michael Irvin's going to be your advocate. You're Deion Neon. Here you go. Jerry Jones loves you. Do you want the nonsense of a meddlesome owner? Remember when Magic Johnson tried to come back and coach the Lakers? It was a debacle. So you're talking about an all-time great with a franchise trying to come back and coach. It doesn't work. It rarely works. And let me say one more thing to some of the Jet fans that are killing me. The Kansas City Chiefs went out and acquired Joe Montana, and they made it to an AFC championship. The Denver Broncos went out after a horrible neck injury that almost ended his career and got who? Peyton Manning. They won a Super Bowl. Tampa Bay went out and got Tom Brady, and the first year they won a Super Bowl. So all you friggin' little pecker Jet fans right now that are getting on me on social and on Facebook telling me to stop destroying the Jets because the Giants suck and get off Aaron Rodgers, this, that, the other thing. For all you little numbnuts, you little rats out there, let me break it down to you one more friggin' time before we get out of here. You went out and sold your friggin' soul. You sold your soul for Aaron Rodgers, who 4 offensive snaps got hurt and had to sprinkle whale sperm all over the place and had to go find himself. And you're 2-8 this year, 3-8. You are going nowhere. You're just as bad as the Giants. The problem is you've got a quarterback that thinks he's going to come back and dictate everything, and that ain't happening. Jet fans, you shouldn't want Aaron Rodgers back. You might like Aaron Rodgers. You might respect Aaron Rodgers, but you cannot trust him. So get off my back on that. All right. Like the Texans tonight, I know we got to start wrapping up. Jay Show's coming up at 6 o'clock. The hour absolutely flies by. You guys are perfect. You guys are wonderful. You guys are not clowns in my book. Joey B with the last comment. Scorching earth. Jets fans right now. The internet will never be the same. Oh, you know what? Let's go to, all right. Well, now we're close. All right. What do you got there? I think Jet fans are a little woozy recovering from, I can't say that word yet. Hibiscus.
Confused weekend.
Hibiscus?
There's
ayahuasca infused weekend. Fireman Ed, stop. That's just Fireman Ed. The Fireman. The camera's got to be on. Who's worse, Fireman Ed or Big Dom? My God, they should have fought on Saturday night.
They should have. They're equally as bad.
All right, I gotta start wrapping it up. Don't forget, a couple BYPs this week. We'll be back on the air with The Drive later on the week. Catch Pete Shepard tomorrow, 7 to 10. Martinez and Company Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 12. You got Jay Shows coming up next. Keep it locked in. Have a good sports night. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll recap everything with Lloyd Vance tomorrow on BYP. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.